Thanks. My question's actually for you. So you chaired the electrification of transportation panel. There, I think, has been a lot of discussion of electric vehicles here. I've seen it in a number of different groupings. But I'm wondering if, when we consider the electrification of personal vehicles, I feel like we often see that as like a silver bullet to reducing transport emissions. But we so rarely consider that switching from internal combustion engines to battery-powered vehicles is switching from extractivism of oil to extractivism of minerals. And in order to create all those batteries for vehicles, there needs to be a massive increase in mining, and much of that mining is going to happen in the developing world, which currently still uses child labor and has really terrible labor laws, and there's a lot of environmental problems with all that mining. So was that taken into account in your panel? Is that something that we should be thinking about? And why aren't we talking more about switching to transit and cycling a lot more quickly than just vehicles?
Sure. So that was a nested question. The first answer I would give is we did have an urban transportation panel that was more focused on things other than electric vehicles. So one of the first things that always happens when you talk about EVs is someone says, you got to take the bus, you got a bike. Absolutely. That said, so the issue of justice on how to get the things to make the batteries and the electric vehicles did come up, especially during the Citizens Assembly. We extract a lot to make cars now. So now I'm speaking for myself, not sort of representing the panel, so I'm going to give my best possible answer to this. We extract a lot of stuff to make cars. We extract a lot of stuff to make oil. And the mining that we do for things like the oil sands and other petroleum projects currently is a massive justice issue in and of itself. So I don't think the contrast is between going to EVs and then there is injustice versus doing what we're doing now and it is just. That said, as we transition, absolutely, this is an opportunity to do this right this time. So rather than building 150 years of state power to impose things on people, there absolutely should be ethics involved in mining and extraction. EV batteries have credible recycling pathways, both in terms of taking things that are used in cars and then using it in grid scale storage, and also in terms of taking materials out of the batteries themselves and reusing them to make new batteries in the future. We're not there yet on that, but there's research going on in that, and I think it's a credible pathway, more credible than some other decarbonization pathways technology-wise. So I don't like to sort of rely on science fiction, things that don't exist yet, so we're not there yet, but there's research in that area. The other aspect, and then I'll stop, I'm sorry, but this is a very sort of multi-layer question, is that the technology, so some of the more problematic elements of the lithium-ion batteries, such as the cobalt content, have dropped precipitously even since 2011 when the first consumer EVs started to become widely available. And so when you look at cobalt as a percentage of the battery, it's dropping very, very fast to the point where it won't be a component in the next generation of lithium-ion batteries. So all that is to say, in my personal view, electrification of transportation is a credible pathway to decarbonization, but walking down that path doesn't imply that it will necessarily be just, but we do know that unmitigated climate change is about as unjust as it can get.
I just want to add a real quick factoid that I learned in the heavy industry session that just took place. There's actually a much higher amount of nickel than other minerals in lithium-ion batteries. And we had a presenter from Valais that spoke about the nickel production in our own province that is being done in a way where people are, having good, sustainable jobs that are covered by labor laws, and also their efforts to decarbonize that sector. So again, it's a great opportunity of how this transition towards electric vehicles, well, if you keep those things in mind and are aware of, the full life cycle of the materials, can actually help in making things more just overall.